Dark chocolate, milk chocolate, white chocolate, you probably know them all. But did you know one of them technically isn't chocolate at all? Another was created by accident, and one naturally turns pink without any food coloring? Let's uncover the fascinating story behind every major type of chocolate and what truly makes each one different. Dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is the closest modern version to chocolate in its purest form. It is made mainly from cocoa solids, cocoa butter, and sugar, with little or no milk added. Most dark chocolate contains at least 50% cocoa, while stronger varieties can reach 70, 85, or even 99%. That percentage tells you how much of the bar comes from the cacao bean. A higher number usually means less sugar, a more intense taste, and a firmer texture. But higher does not automatically mean better. A well-made 70% bar can taste smoother and more balanced than a poorly made 90% bar. Its flavor also depends on where the cacao was grown. Beans from Madagascar often taste bright and fruity, while beans from Ecuador may carry floral or nutty notes. Like coffee or wine, cacao reflects its soil, climate, and growing conditions. The smooth texture comes from a process called conching, where chocolate is continuously mixed and refined for hours or even days. Without it, dark chocolate would feel much rougher and more acidic. Milk chocolate. Milk chocolate was surprisingly difficult to invent. In the 1800s, chocolatiers knew that adding milk could soften cacao's bitterness, but fresh milk contained too much water. When water touches melted chocolate, it can cause the mixture to seize, separate, or spoil. Swiss chocolatier Daniel Peter spent years trying to solve the problem. His breakthrough came in 1875, when he used a concentrated milk product developed by Henri Nestlé. This made it possible to combine milk and chocolate into a stable, creamy bar. Milk chocolate usually contains less cacao and more sugar than dark chocolate, which gives it a softer, sweeter taste. Legal standards vary by country, but many require at least 10% cocoa solids and around 12% milk solids. American milk chocolate often tastes slightly tangier than European versions. This is linked to early milk processing methods used by companies such as Hershey, which created a faintly acidic flavor. Over time, that taste became so familiar that many Americans now consider it the normal flavor of chocolate. White chocolate. White chocolate is one of the most debated forms of chocolate because it contains no cocoa solids, the dark material responsible for chocolate's brown color and bitter taste. Instead, it is made from cocoa butter, sugar, milk solids, and usually vanilla. Cocoa butter comes directly from the cacao bean, so white chocolate still contains a genuine cacao ingredient. That is why it can legally be called chocolate in many countries, even though some purists disagree. Good white chocolate should contain at least 20% cocoa butter. Cheaper products sometimes replace part of it with vegetable fat, which can make the texture waxy and the flavor overly sweet. White chocolate is also more delicate than it looks. Cocoa butter melts close to body temperature and can burn or separate easily during heating. This makes tempering and molding it surprisingly difficult. Because its flavor is mild, white chocolate works especially well with ingredients such as vanilla, pistachio, matcha, citrus, and freeze-dried berries. Rather than dominating other flavors, it acts as a smooth, creamy base that carries them. Ruby chocolate. Ruby chocolate is the newest major addition to the chocolate family. It was officially introduced in 2017 after more than a decade of research by chocolate manufacturer Barry Callebaut. What makes ruby chocolate special is its natural pink color. Unlike strawberry-flavored candy, the color doesn't come from food coloring or fruit extracts. Instead, it comes from specially selected ruby cacao beans grown in countries such as Ecuador, Brazil, and Ivory Coast. The secret lies in the way the beans are processed. By carefully controlling fermentation and acidity, chocolatiers preserve natural compounds inside the cacao that create both the pink color and the fresh berry-like flavor. Ruby chocolate sits somewhere between milk and dark chocolate. It's creamy, slightly tart, and often described as tasting like raspberries or citrus, even though no fruit is added. To qualify as ruby chocolate, it must contain at least 47.3% cocoa ingredients. Blonde chocolate. Unlike most chocolates, blonde chocolate wasn't invented on purpose. In 2006, French pastry chef Frédéric Bao accidentally left white chocolate warming for much longer than planned. Instead of burning, something unexpected happened. The milk sugars and proteins slowly caramelized through the Maillard reaction, the same chemical process that browns toasted bread and grilled steak. The result was a completely different chocolate. It turned golden in color and developed rich flavors of caramel, shortbread, and lightly toasted biscuits, while still keeping the creamy texture of white chocolate. Recognizing its potential, French chocolate company Valrhona later introduced it commercially under the name Dulce. Today, blonde chocolate has become a favorite ingredient in premium desserts around the world. Modica chocolate. Modica chocolate looks nothing like the smooth chocolate bars most people are used to. Made in the Sicilian town of Modica, this traditional recipe dates back to the 1500s, when Spanish traders introduced chocolate-making techniques they had learned from the Aztecs. Unlike modern chocolate, Modica chocolate is never conched. The sugar isn't fully dissolved, leaving tiny crystals throughout the bar. Instead of melting smoothly on your tongue, it has a crunchy, grainy texture that surprises first-time tasters. The chocolate is also processed at relatively low temperatures, helping preserve its rustic character. Traditional versions are often flavored with cinnamon, vanilla, or chili pepper, just as the Aztecs once enjoyed centuries ago. Today, Modica chocolate remains one of the few chocolates still produced using a method that has changed very little in over 400 years. And we're only halfway through. If you're discovering something new so far, consider subscribing. There are plenty more surprising food stories still to come. Single origin chocolate. Most chocolate bars are made by blending cacao beans from several countries to create a consistent flavor year after year. Single origin chocolate takes the opposite approach. Every bean comes from one specific country, region, or sometimes even a single farm. Because cacao is heavily influenced by climate, soil, and rainfall, each growing region produces its own unique flavor profile. Beans from Madagascar are known for their bright, fruity acidity. Ecuador often delivers floral aromas, while Venezuelan cacao is prized for its rich, nutty complexity. This idea is known as terroir, the same concept used to describe fine wine and specialty coffee. Instead of masking those natural differences, single-origin chocolate celebrates them, allowing people to taste the character of one particular place. For chocolate lovers, it's less about sweetness and more about discovering how nature shapes flavor. Gianduja chocolate. Gianduja chocolate was born from a shortage. During the Napoleonic Wars in the early 1800s, trade restrictions made cacao expensive and difficult to obtain in northern Italy. To stretch their limited supply, local chocolatiers mixed finely ground Piedmont hazelnuts with chocolate. The result wasn't just a substitute. It became an entirely new style of chocolate, with an incredibly smooth, creamy texture and a rich, roasted flavor. Traditional gianduja typically contains around 30% hazelnut paste, giving it a naturally silky consistency without needing extra oils. If it sounds familiar, that's because gianduja later inspired one of the world's most famous chocolate spreads, Nutella. While modern recipes have evolved, the original Italian invention remains a favorite among artisan chocolatiers. Raw chocolate. Raw chocolate is made from cacao beans that are never roasted. Throughout production, temperatures are kept below about 42 degrees Celsius to preserve more of the bean's natural compounds. Supporters believe this helps retain antioxidants and certain heat-sensitive nutrients. However, scientists continue to debate whether these differences provide meaningful health benefits after digestion. What everyone agrees on is the flavor. Without roasting, raw chocolate tastes much earthier, more bitter, and noticeably less sweet than traditional chocolate. Its texture can also feel slightly grainier because lower processing temperatures make it harder to achieve the silky smooth finish found in conventional chocolate. Raw chocolate has become especially popular among people looking for minimally processed foods, offering a very different tasting experience from the chocolate most of us grew up eating. Drinking chocolate. Long before chocolate became the solid bars we know today, it was a drink. More than 3,000 years ago, the Maya, and later the Aztecs, prepared cacao as a cold, bitter beverage, often mixed with water, chili peppers, and ground corn. It was considered a sacred drink, reserved for ceremonies, warriors, and rulers. When Spanish explorers brought cacao to Europe in the 1500s, everything changed. Europeans added sugar, cinnamon, and served it hot, transforming it into one of the continent's most luxurious drinks. Modern drinking chocolate is still very different from ordinary hot cocoa. Instead of cocoa powder, it's made by melting real chocolate into milk or water, creating a thicker, richer texture. In countries like France, Italy, and Spain, it's often so thick that it's almost eaten with a spoon rather than sipped. Couverture chocolate. If you've ever admired the glossy finish on a luxury chocolate bar or a perfectly coated truffle, chances are it was made with couverture chocolate. Couverture contains a higher percentage of cocoa butter than regular chocolate, usually between 31 and 39%. That extra cocoa butter gives it a smoother texture, a cleaner snap, and a beautiful shine when properly tempered. Because of these qualities, couverture is the preferred choice for professional chocolatiers. It's commonly used for chocolate shells, bonbons, dipped strawberries, and elegant dessert decorations. Although it tastes similar to regular chocolate, working with couverture requires precise temperature control. Even a small mistake during tempering can leave the chocolate dull, soft, or covered with a white layer known as fat bloom. Compound chocolate. Compound chocolate may look almost identical to real chocolate, but it's made in a very different way. Instead of using cocoa butter, manufacturers replace it with vegetable fats, such as palm or coconut oil. This makes compound chocolate much cheaper to produce and far easier to work with because it doesn't require tempering. It melts more predictably and hardens quickly, making it ideal for mass-produced snacks, candy bars, cookies, and chocolate coatings. The trade-off is in the taste and texture. Without cocoa butter, compound chocolate usually has a less complex flavor and a waxier mouthfeel than traditional chocolate. Even so, it's one of the most widely used chocolate products in the food industry. In fact, many chocolate-coated desserts sold around the world are actually made with compound chocolate rather than true chocolate.